My tea.
Welcome back to the Busy Bariatrics podcast. And on today's episode, we're diving into a topic that's often misunderstood, but very important: alcohol and hydration after weight loss surgery. There is no one better to guide us through this than Helen Kimmel, a bariatric dietitian with over 25 years of experience, who also walks the walk as a weight loss surgery patient herself. Helen underwent VSG over a decade ago, lost 120 pounds, and has kept it off. But her journey wasn't just about weight loss. It was about reclaiming her health after struggling with hypertension, high cholesterol, and borderline diabetes. As a registered dietitian who once found herself needing weight loss surgery, she brings a very unique perspective, combining science backed nutrition with real life experiences. Helen knows firsthand how overwhelming post op life can be, navigating misinformation, facing emotional and social challenges, and figuring out what actually works for long term success. Today, she's here to break down the truth about alcohol and hydration after surgery, what you need to know, what's myth versus fact, and how to set yourself up for success. Helen, I couldn't think of a better person to talk about with all this, and I can't wait for you to share a little bit about your story. So, what did I
Thank
miss in
you.
that intro that you want the people to know?
First up, thank you for having me. We've been friends in this community for a while now, so I really appreciate you asking me. Yes, you told most of my story. I'm a dietitian for 35 years. I was a morbidly obese dietitian, which is a tough place to be. Realized that even the experts can need help, and it honestly took a physician friend of mine who kind of took me by the hand and kind of said, "Okay, we know you know the stuff, but you need help." Had VSG 13 years ago, lost 100 pounds, kept it off for a decade, which is significant, and then lost the last 40 with the help of the new meds after doing the science research. But something that you didn't say is that a lot of people don't know my background. Before I opened this part of my life, the bariatric practice, I was in the food world. I was the first nutritionist ever at a New York City big restaurant at the Rainbow Room. So if you watch the SNL 50th anniversary show last night, it's at 30 Rock, and the 65th floor of 30 Rock is where Rainbow is. And we did a lot of stuff there talking about healthy food, incorporating food into a really amazing lifestyle. And I've written cookbooks. I have props, Rob. I don't think anybody's seen this. This is before my surgery when I cooked on the Today Show with Giada.
Oh my goodness, that
So
is
it was
amazing.
a long time ago and a lot of way to go. But I'm glad you want to talk to me about alcohol and hydration, because part of what living long-term success is incorporating all the things if you can. So
Absolutely. And so much I just want to talk about, like SNL and being in rock and living that best life. But I think it's important that we also cover the first time, like we kind of met as well, was I was going through a really tough spot where I had a caloric burst, and you reached out to me and walked through everything of what I need to know, what I should be looking at for nutrition. And when we first connected, your content always spoke to me because it's very practical, it's very approachable, and it's very much realistic. I think there's a very big disconnect on social media that every meal has to look like Instagram reel worthy. And a lot of your recipes and nutrition, I say this as a compliment, are very basic that anyone can do that. And I think that gets lost sometimes. Would you agree?
I know, I absolutely agree. I think you need to enjoy your food. I mean, this whole journey can't be about, you know, plain
Broccoli,
chicken,
diet, chicken, and air.
but it doesn't have to be a perfect plate. And I'm proof of that. You watch my stuff. I like recipes, and I talk about recipes that are low effort, high reward. Meaning it could be an assembly recipe, but if it has to taste good. We still have to enjoy your food. You have to enjoy your drinks, whether they're alcohol or not alcohol, and we'll get into that. We do this to have our best life, and that includes food and drink. So yes, it's a part of what I do with my clients and the community is talk about how to figure out what you like to eat, what you like to drink, the flavors, the textures, and enjoy it. But let me get back to reaching out to you. We have an amazing bariatric community, and this was years ago, and it still is. I saw you online. I saw you were struggling. I reached out to you. I meant it. We didn't know each other, but that's the beauty of this bariatric community, the support.
Yeah, it's just a phenomenal thing, and it's great that I get to connect, and I love having the podcast now to bring back everyone who has helped me along my way, and you've helped so many other bariatric patients as well. And I think there's something to say of having the unique perspective of you've had weight loss surgery yourself yourself. So you understand the importance of low effort and high reward. And I always joke, and when we connect, I think we're on the same page of like, I always said I didn't get to 365 pounds eating McDonald's. I had a very fancy, lavish palate. I liked restaurants. I liked dining, and I still like dining. As much as everyone thinks I track macros and live out of meal prep containers for most of life, that somewhat is true. But that also allows me the freedom of like when my birthday weekend comes in, I can enjoy that. When the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary shows, I can have a very nice glass of bourbon and enjoy it while watching television and know that there's a clear set limit. For people who don't know, though, alcohol is a macronutrient. Am I correct in saying that?
So you know what? Let's get some science out of the way. Okay, so
Let's get the vegetables off the plate so we can get to the sweets.
yes, alcohol after weight loss surgery. In my opinion, my professional opinion, it should be at least 6 months before anybody has any alcohol. My doc said a year, different docs say different things. Part of the reason for that is we have, wait, am I allowed to curse a little bit?
You can curse. I still have to keep my day job, so I will play PG-13, but you say exactly.
Listen, we have to, after bariatric surgery, we have to go through a lot of shit. We have to think about a lot of stuff. And it's the smaller stomach, the head gains, the mind F word that happens. Adding alcohol to that, in my opinion, would just make it too much. And part of the reason is after bariatric surgery, we absorb alcohol faster. It hits harder, it hits faster. There are physiological reasons for that, but with both sleeve surgery and bypass surgery. So, okay, I'm going to get technical for a minute. Let's just do it.
Let's get pretty, and then we'll go into the psychology and everything else.
So your stomach makes something called dehydrogenase. That's the enzyme that breaks down alcohol. So if you have a VSG and you have a smaller stomach, if you have bypass and you're bypassing part of the places that absorb alcohol, you get hit harder with less broken down alcohol. Everybody, all of us.
So it's like taking the padding off as it's hitting you, where it's like you lose a little bit of the bumper and then.
And some of us lose a lot of the bumper. So what does that mean? It means you're at risk for alcohol poisoning before you were before. That's an extreme thing. But you're also at risk for getting drunker, quicker, harder. And that means, honestly, even things like this I've read, it hasn't happened to me, but sometimes, you live on the Jersey Shore. I live down the Jersey Shore. During holiday weekends, there are a lot of places where the police make you stop and walk the line and blow, no matter what. And the people go, officer, I only had one drink. That can apply to a lot of people. If you have bariatric surgery and you had one drink, you can be in trouble driving. You should not drink and drive at all after bariatric surgery, no matter how much. What were you going to say?
No, it's 100% agree. And it's something from my own experience because I'm very lucky, like in the sense of I do like to drink. I live close enough that I can walk to most places. But I've done tests where it's like, especially in my first year out, where I would have a drink, wait an hour, and then breathe. I would still be over the legal limit. And this was like when I was fully active. So like my metabolism was probably at the best it's been since I've been of age to drink, and I could still operate. And it was a great learning lesson for me because I now take the approach of like, look, if I'm even having like a sip of alcohol between being a teacher during the day and not really wanting a DUI or anything, I'll either Uber home or my wife will drive. But like a lot of the times we'll just get a car, we'll take the train into the city. But yeah, it's something, especially down the shore for us Jersey people, that they just pull over as quickly as vacation drinking. Yeah.
So you know what? I've never spoken to anybody who actually, blew the machine. So that's good. I've heard about it, but now I know it's actually, don't take the chance. The other part is alcohol can lower your blood sugar. And the reason is because alcohol depletes glycogen. So you feel like you tank because you tank. You just, don't feel well. That said, I have a wine collection. I love bourbon, all of it. I figured out a way to fit it in with some rules. I also learned the hard way the first time out. The very first time I had a Manhattan, it was over a year out from surgery. It was a long time ago.
My weapon of choice, by the way.
It hit me really hard. Let's just say that.
It's a strong drink to start.
To begin with, yes. But so I do limit that, but I collect wine. So now in the past, when, we would open a good bottle of wine and you have to finish a bottle of wine within a certain period of time or it isn't good anymore. So now we have the thing that you can sample it, take a taste. So you find ways. What else other than, okay, I got off track. The other thing that alcohol does is it can deplete vitamins. It could stop some absorption, especially of the B12 vitamins.
So why is that?
It's the way things are absorbed in your stomach. It's the way the alcohol, impacts it. I mean, B12 is something that after bariatric surgery, we're all at risk for. B12 and D are the two vitamins that we tend to be lower on, which is why we supplement it.
Funny because my panel comes up that I have an obscenely high level of B12 to the point like they have gone through everything else is normal. It's the weirdest thing ever, but B12 always seems to be jacked and B6. But
Six, huh?
Little bit of supplements and some other things that get tossed into there, but yeah. So I guess my big question is there's always this talk on the online fitness space that when you drink alcohol, it also shuts down your metabolism for 24 to 48 hours is what I've heard. Is there truth to that, or what should we really know about how alcohol might affect our metabolism and digestion?
So, I mean, alcohol slows things down. Does it shut it down? Haven't really read that it shuts it down. Does it change, your attitude toward things? Can it make you a little more, blasé about, be less motivated? Perhaps. But as far as totally shutting it down for 24 hours, if someone has the studies show me, I haven't read them. But if you're not feeling well because you had some alcohol, I think it all fits together. The motivation, the kind of feeling blah, the slight level of nausea, the little bit of headache, or that's the thing also. Alcohol hits hard. And for me personally, I get for that first few years, I would have a cocktail or something when everybody else would socially. So I was a social drinker. I didn't drink too much, and we could talk about addiction stuff also, but socially part of my jam. But I would drink, I would get buzzed quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone would kind of like slow up on the buzz, and then my buzz would go boom, and I'd have a headache, and they were just kind of getting started, and it was the timing of it was hard. Did I feel shut down the next day? I felt shut down. I don't think it was physically shut down, but I didn't feel like doing anything. So I don't know if that answered your question, but as far as I don't know the studies that show that in the fitness world it actually does physiologically physically shut it down.
I think it's closer to slowing down, and people take that to mean that it shuts down or they take an interpretation. But I will say, from own personal experience, I think there is, like I drank last night and I stayed up past my bedtime. This morning was not the best workout I've ever had. And I think there is like a psychological involvement that isn't necessarily, I'm trying to think how best to put it. Like, it's not necessarily like there's proven science to this, but there is more of a psychological component of like, why are you drinking? Like, how do you feel after you drink, or the patterns that you have after drinking of. I have 10 to 15 years of deeply rooted habits of drinking all night, sleeping in, having a leisurely morning, and not really doing anything. So I don't know if there's a metabolic answer to that as more of a behavior change for me of I had to really rewire that I cannot stay up that much later just because I'm drinking because it derails there. I do have to get up a little bit earlier. Like, there's more of a psychological pattern, I feel, than anything.
I believe that there is also, and you did it. And you know what? You got up and worked out this morning. I don't care if your workout was the best workout ever. You did it.
It was not.
Okay.
We'll set the record straight on that.
It's fine. You did it. That's the point. Because people get into the cycle of, tomorrow, I'll do it again tomorrow. I don't feel like doing it today with good habits, working out, whatever it is, after having a party or night, a more drinking night. Frankly, an overeating night can make you feel the same way.
And I think going back to what you said earlier of your professional opinion of waiting 6 months after weight loss surgery to even incorporate alcohol, I think more from the psychological and behavior change aspect. For me, I know alcohol played a very large role in what led to my obesity. And I know that because when I started to track an NFL Sunday prior to weight loss surgery, I could have 16,000 calories.
Wow.
Because I would start with Grand Slam breakfast because I was hungover from the night before.
Den-
Yeah, let's just call it what it is. Like, it's top this up because I got to rinse and repeat from Saturday night. Then I would have like I'd go to church, I'd come back and be like, well, it's 12. I should probably start drinking for Fox NFL Sunday so I have a buzz for the Eagles game at 1. And at the height of my drinking and when I was 365 pounds, I would have to drink about 2 to 3 Budweisers an hour just to keep my buzz. I'd have to build it, so I'd have to drink like in the first 2 hours, probably like a dozen beers. So I would go through about a case of beer on an NFL Sunday, just maintaining, and then we'd get to Sunday gravy because I'm Italian. I would drink like 2 Manhattans before dinner because now we're having our cocktail at the 4 o'clock game. Sunday gravy, we'd go through a bottle of wine after that, and then I'd switch to bourbon in the night, and that was on top of eating like a full breakfast, a full lunch, a full dinner, and then at 10 o'clock you get drunk munchies. It'd be like I'd eat like another meal, and I would look back at the tracker the first time I did it. I was like, I gotta change something here. This is not good.
That's a lot. It's a lot.
It's
It's so here's like talking just straight up calories. I'm not like the biggest calorie counting girl on this journey, but there's something that people don't know. People think that alcohol has the impact of a carbohydrate calorically. It does not. So, like basic nutrition, basic calories, a gram of carbohydrate has 4 calories. A gram of protein has 4 calories. A gram of fat has 9 calories. A gram of alcohol has 7 calories. So it's closer to the caloric value impact of fat than it is carbs. But a lot of my people don't actually realize it. Yes, so it literally is more fattening calorically. It's not really what we should just focus on, but it impacts it as well. And you add in some mixers, some sugary stuff to it, and you're throwing your blood sugar all over the place. You're feeling like crap after you have a little buzz.
That's why I just would keep my blood sugar sky high. Like it's a true testament I was not diabetic with this routine because I would start drinking on Thursday nights for a Thursday night football. And it wouldn't be as big as the Eagles game, but it would still be like I'm having like 6 to 7 beers for that night. Friday after work was like more alcohol. And this goes back to like why I think just giving 6 months of let your body understand what your new life comes through. But back to the calories and everything else, it's why a lot of the times when I coach with clients and we go over macros, it's not that I'm opposed to high fat items, it's just that they're more calorically dense. And I feel like bariatric patients can sometimes consume more of them because it's smaller. So it's not that I'm necessarily against almonds, it's that in a handful of almonds, because it's a high fat item, is more calorically dense and you can kind of graze on.
You can graze on it. Also, I mean, the difference between fat and alcohol metabolism, we all need fat. Fat keeps you fuller longer. Fat helps your fat soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K work in your body. But the way I think about it, I like these little phrases, my recipe phrases. And when I talk to my clients, the majority of what we should be eating, not all of it, because anything goes, there's no forbidden foods unless you're allergic or can't tolerate it, is what's the protein bang for your calorie buck? So I don't necessarily think, oh, how many calories you're eating, but are you eating protein forward most of the time?
Love that. Yeah. And I think that's important when we're looking at like macro splits or anything else that you absolutely do need fat. It helps with vitamin absorption and it's the right types of fats, just like anything else can do a good bang for your buck. But it is important when we look at like a protein plate of how are you incorporating that? Are we catching 2 vegetables per day at some point into there to get our carbs at the right source? And I think
a big piece of pizza fits in too. But you just have to, they're finding the balance where you can, we were talking about like the backtrack for a second to the first 6 months. I think those first 6 months, especially really the first year, we're building the foundation of habits. And it's easier to build the foundation of habits without alcohol included. And then we can fit other things in.
also when you're looking like even if you are tracking calories, it does take up space on your tracker, and it is kind of important when you're in that early pattern of you have such a limited amount that you can eat. Watching where you use it for alcohol or certain other items might not necessarily fit. But as we get further out and we get into maintenance, how can someone start to kind of incorporate alcohol responsibly within their diet or lifestyle after?
First up, I'm not going against anybody's doctor. This is not medical advice. There are still some docs that say don't drink. There are still some docs that say don't chew gum and use a straw. I'm going to go against all of it. I think it's really important it's almost like I don't know how old your kids are. My kids are older, but when it came time for them to be in social situations with alcohol, for me, it was important for them to, again, people can disagree with me. I didn't want the first time that they had a lot of alcohol would be their first party in college. And I think the same thing is treat your pouch kind of like a newborn, a new baby, a child. Find out how you metabolize it. So in a safe space, not driving, not in a crowd, not in a place where you can get yourself in trouble in any way. Have a safe drink first. A little bit. I would not go for the bourbon first. Go for something lighter, glass of wine. I also wouldn't do bubbly first because bubbles kind of impact how things are metabolized. This is not based on science. This is my own experience and how I've helped clients.
I think personal experience does play a big role though, and I think the most important part of it is as opposed to like don't try this at home, it's the exact opposite. It's like no, try this at home. Like you don't want the first sip of alcohol after weight loss surgery to be like at a big event or at a wedding because God forbid you don't process it well. You're
Exactly.
surrounded by 200 people who may know you, and that might not go well for you.
Exactly. Even in a restaurant, because you're mixing out, we're supposed to wait a half hour before, drinking and eating. And that's one rule that I really do. Because again, I haven't seen scientific studies of this, but me personally, if I'm sipping wine and I'm not waiting, and frankly, I don't always wait when I'm sipping wine and having a meal with people, I think it feels like my pouch relaxes. I can eat a little bit more. I cannot be, I may pay the price later feeling overfull, but it stops me from being my best bariatric self. And if you do that first and you don't know how you tolerate it, you're really at risk for, like I said, getting yourself in trouble. So be kind to yourself. Be safe with yourself when you're starting out. Also, socially, these big, like summer drinks, a frozen margarita is a alcohol bomb and it is a sugar bomb. So I would try stuff that doesn't have a huge sugar content first so you can assess, okay, this is the alcohol making me feel and this is the sugar bomb making me feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And I think when we talk about blood sugar spikes and everything else, a lot of times we forget that with sugary drinks, it does add that more in. Or if you're tracking the full calories of it, it just becomes like it can get excessive very quickly. And because you're drinking your calories, when I coach clients and it's like, oh, I don't understand why I'm not losing weight. I'm hitting like this level of macros. I'm like, I notice you don't have no alcohol tracked for the last 3 months. Are you drinking it all? It's like, well, yeah, but I don't really track it. It's like, well, not to say that alcohol stops fat loss, but if you're having 2 or 3 glasses of wine, that can be roughly about like 240 calories, which depending on your height, weight, and all those other factors, can take you from a caloric deficit to just now you're in maintenance, or from maintenance to a surplus where the weight comes on a little bit, just because we're not tracking those.
It's the same thing. I'm glad you brought this up because having a cocktail, having a glass of wine that people don't track is kind of the same thing as people who are grazing
Yes.
snacks, a bite here, a bite there that they don't track. And there's nothing more frustrating than working really hard 95% of the time and having some things that you're not tracking and kind of staying stuck, not progressing in your journey. And it gets old quick. So sometimes that's what I do with my clients. Let's dig deep. Let's look to see what can be tweaked. What aren't you counting? What can we add or subtract, not to deprive, not to make anybody feel scarcity, but to make the difference between staying where you are, which is great if you're on maintenance, but staying where you are and making the progress to get where you want to be.
Yeah, I think when we look at your first year after bariatric surgery, it's such a critical and valuable point, kind of really reflecting as almost treating it like a fat loss phase where you want to get in and you want to get out as effectively as possible. And I like the fact that you talk about not having restriction or denying anyone anything, but I do go over with clients of if the goal is fat loss, the goal is to get in and out as quickly as possible. And some ways that I find it easier is like, look, what if you took 2 months and you were just sober? And then we find out like we can lose another 8 pounds sometimes, depending on the client. Like, and it's like, look, I'm not telling you don't have wine ever again. I'm saying let's get down to where we feel comfortable that you feel that you've taken care of your regain. Now let's incorporate it properly and find a way to work in like Maybe it's you have 2 glasses of wine on a Friday night, and that is your way of kind of unwinding or relaxing for the week. So when you're in maintenance, you could probably do that. And now you don't have that psychological tear of, why am I not losing weight? Like, we're doing this because you're letting these other things come in.
It's the same thing as snacking on foods. I do believe, I last night, I'm getting back to the SNL. I had this big charcuterie board and people watching it. I'm not somebody who says you can't snack while you watch TV. It's the same thing as you can't drink after weight loss surgery. I believe you need to be mindful about it. And if you plan it, not strictly, but if you're mindful about what you can enjoy it all.
Yeah, I find what works for me is I start the day before of like, what am I doing today? And I know it can be a little strict for some, but it works for me. Is I will be like, you know what? We're going out. I want to be able to have 2 Manhattans. I'm not going to have 3 Manhattans, but I'm absolutely going to have 2 Manhattans. And I just track it right off the bat. And then I see where the calories fall, depending on where I'm at. And I work backwards. So it's like, look, if we're going out and I know it's a good Italian restaurant, I'll get the chicken parm, but I know I'm going to be probably over on my carbs and my fats, even with the choice that I make. And I just fill in the blanks for the rest of the day of like, well, looks like I'm kind of eating high protein and let me get my vegetables in early so I can have the pasta on the side as opposed to the broccoli. Cause like they'll do it where they put like broccoli on the chicken parm plate. And I'm like, but why though? Like either have it or don't have it.
I think the broccoli next to the chicken parm does have a place on a weekday situation, but if you're going to the good restaurant, have the real thing. My gosh, no matter what it is. I mean, it's a I do agree that some people need to track. Some people, it plays with your head. So it's about finding the balance, what works for you. So some of the, like, especially the old school Weight Watcher people, and there was a place for Weight Watchers, but that counting point that becomes where it becomes obsessive, it gets in your head.
I almost see some clients and I can tell right off the bat, like, oh, this is Weight Watcher drama of everything. Of they almost open up their one-to-one of like, I weigh this much. I'm like, not the point of this call.
Exactly. Exactly.
100% get where you're coming from, but let's go over how are you feeling.
Well, I had the extra thin bread. It was 35 calories versus 40. I'm like, stop, just stop right there.
I think for me, it's kind of like my budget is I always joke, what's the best way to stop tracking calories? Well, start by tracking them and get a feel of what things do.
Mhm.
You can learn how to build your plates properly and then be like, look, same as fat loss. Like for maintenance, I think you can really just, you kind of have an idea of this is what a plate that will fill you, that will make you happy and fit your bariatric goals. And then if the scale goes up or down based on what you're doing, take like a day or two of, okay, let me track again and see. Oh yeah, that handful of M&Ms really is throwing me into a caloric surge.
That's the difference. But not a full-on liquid reset bullshit garbage. I do not believe in that. I think it's just to kind of reel it, dial it back to what your foundation is for,
Yes.
you know.
And there that goes for coaching or anything else. I really think if you look at good teams, it's when they start to struggle, they go back to their basics. And I think for bariatric patients, the liquid diet is not what I think the basics are. I think the basics are really, let's plate a protein, a lean protein with a vegetable, and then check your fullness cue, and then maybe have something else on the plate after you get through one and two.
Exactly.
Same as like with fat loss is like, look, the goal is to get in and out as quickly as possible. So let's make sure we have it here. And then when we get to maintenance, go back to plating or whatever you feel comfortable with and just manage from there.
But a point I want to make also is I'm 13 years out. I am
Yes.
not perfect at this stuff. There
I don't,
are days when I go back to my basics after it's not a punishment. That's the difference in the mental part of it, the headspace part of it. You aren't bad and then you're good. You lived your life and now you're just kind of living it, helping yourself move forward. It's different. And the same thing with alcohol, in my opinion.
and I think you're right. And at 10 to 13 years out, and for me being close to like 4 years out, it's just different. You cannot be perfect. Like I'll meet with people like my tracker has been perfect for 115 days. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, well, no, like I should be losing more. I'm like, I'd argue maybe taking a break from tracking. and then resetting yourself because there is a little bit of fatigue that can come in?
No, there is. My clients, you know me, I can be like, the snarky New Yorker, and they'll be like, oh, I was perfect and I did this and then I'm like, you want a medal? You don't get a medal for this. It's like,
There's really no reward for that. I will say, I always do best when I have people on the 95 corridor. I feel like I have to always remind myself when I leave the Northeast that like I am very direct and I have a snark to me. But then when I meet my people, it's like, oh, this is just like what we do.
I'm a girl from Queens. I'm in
Exactly.
New York now. It comes out. So I'm a brand. Look, I'm direct. I'm kind. You're kind. It's
I always say, like, I coach clients and I tell them I'm kind of like your lawyer or your accountant. You don't necessarily need me to be your friend. You need me to get you the result that keeps you either out of jail or keeps you clean and honest. And that's what accountability is. Like, we're not going to enable, we're going to make sure that you're there. But let's get back to alcohol real quick.
sure. I have some props I want to show you if I
Oh,
can.
so let's go in. What's How do we start? Like, if we wanted to, I don't think we should advocate start drinking now, but
No, but I think part of the way to do this is if you're going to my first thing is I enjoy the process of a cocktail party, being there. It's not necessarily just the buzz. It's about, okay, to me, there's nothing more sad, which is I did at the very beginning of standing at a cocktail party, all dressed up, being on, and having a glass of freaking water in a gold water bottle. It just feels, it's like the same, it's the same feeling as everybody's eating around you and you can't eat physically.
thanks.
Yeah, nothing for me, thanks. I'll have the let it. So what I suggest doing after you test how you personally can tolerate alcohol. To me, I love a nice glass. So I have props here. I want to show you what I do and how I do it. Sometimes treating yourself can mean this is not alcohol. This is my heated mug that I bought myself that keeps my tea and my coffee warm all day. This is self-care. Sometimes a nice glass is also self-care, and it doesn't mean you have to put alcohol in it. To give you an example, I have some very nice glasses from my grandma, and not only here's my champagne coupe. Not only is it fun to hold, it has memories. So sometimes you get the whole experience in. I'll drink diet ginger ale in here, and it'll just feel like a cocktail. Sometimes if I'm at a longer party, I'll have some champagne or some prosecco, but the next one is going to be ginger ale. My glass isn't going to be empty, and then you can find the balance. And I think that's part of the key also. It could have the glass, and it doesn't necessarily always have to have alcohol in it. Do you maybe you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think it also lets people practice mixing, like have a drink, have some water, have a drink, have some water, piece it out and really understand.
So okay, so Moscow Mule. My family loves Moscow Mules. What do I put in my cup? An occasional Moscow Mule, not so much alcohol because it hits hard. But there's some really good, this one isn't diet, but some really good diet ginger beer, which a Moscow Mule is made out of. Diet ginger beer, fresh lime in a mule glass feels like a party. I do, and that's hydration.
Ex-
Don't come at me for bubbles. I couldn't drink bubbles for a while. Here's my most fun one. Years ago, you can drink an old school martini in an old school martini glass. And then there was a while there when I think like you guys know I'm not young, but the Sex and the City days when they were drinking, the big martini. Oh, I only had one drink. Well, it was this big. This is what I do now. I love an espresso martini. And they don't necessarily love me. I'm back to my grandma for a second. When I was little in Brooklyn, and Queens, there was this soda called Manhattan Special. It's an espresso soda. I found it. I didn't even know they made it anymore. I found it in an Italian market. This one is diet. It is, I'm not sponsored for it. I'm just so happy to find it. It is a strong espresso, a little bubbly, a little sweet. A bottle basically fills one of these, hydration and caffeine. And it feels like a party. The other thing is, we're going through my glasses here. A low ball. Okay, so a low ball, you have your bourbon, you have your whatever in it.
That is how I make my Manhattans, is out of a low.
So what's in your Manhattan? You have alcohol in your Manhattan. You have other things in your Manhattan. But to me, part of the joy of Manhattan, besides for the bourbon, is the Luxardo cherries, the fancy cherries, right? So I'll put some Diet Coke or something in here with some Luxardo cherries, feels like a party. I think or here's a secret from the Rainbow Room. This was back when the business lunch, the power lunch was the thing. And these people who, no names mentioned, may or may not have run or been mayor of New York City, would have lunch, but they would all, the biggest executives would talk to me because I was running the room at the time beforehand. They would order a drink. It wasn't alcohol. We'd serve it with non-alcohol, but it would be in a rocks glass with a lime. And that's how they got these big deals done, because they weren't drinking, but they're people they were negotiating with were. For me, what they also taught me at Rainbow was I mixed Diet Coke in a rocks glass, big ice cube, right? Why have little, I mean, the special ice from Sonic is one thing, but in a cocktail, you want something, we want a big
So the
ice
water doesn't
to dilute it, right? So in Diet Coke, mixed with fresh lime and a dash of bitters, is my cocktail of choice in places. And I'll order that in a restaurant sometimes, and they'll look at me like I'm nuts. I'm like, make one and taste it.
and it's also they're I always joke because people will make fun of the Starbucks people where it's like it's not just the order, it's the and they shake like the glass and everything. There is a little bit of habit and ritual to me. So for me,
Yes.
I make my Manhattan, it's in a lowball glass. It's I put the cherry on top and then I add the booze and the more booze and I give it a little shake. There is something that there is a little bit habitual with that, but also it's the experience. But then there's also times where it's like, yeah, like I kind of go with a vodka, the fake vodka executive, where it's like just give me water in a lowball glass and put a lime on the side of it. And the like it's always weird when a bartender like freaks out when you order that because it's like, look, clearly I'm either the designated driver or you don't want me drinking. Like we were at a place and this was at like a bariatric event and this was at the hotel bar and they just were like, yeah, we can't do that. Like we don't give garnish unless you're purchasing some. I'm like, here's $20. That should cover the tap water that you're putting into the put this to tip, put it to whatever garnish fee you have to charge for the one like eighth of a lime. And could you do this? And they're like, yeah, I guess we could. I'm like, yeah, like I'm asking for water. Like I get you have to make money, but here's $20.
Right.
Even at an airport, that would get me at least 2 bottles.
It's self-care. I mean, it's part of self-care. Wait, I have one more. Oh, I don't have it here. Oh, yes, I do. My other favorite glass, if I can, my brandy.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can really hydrate, and everybody around you. I don't love, like I just said, I don't love to feel like I'm standing out not drinking. It's nobody's business. In some, if you don't know me, if I'm just in a social situation where you don't know me or you don't know my story, you don't have to know that. It's bad enough that I have to sit at a meal and they go, "You didn't like your food," then I have to explain, I'm full from a piece of it. Big hydration. You can swirl, you can do whatever. So it's the ritual, it's the experience. To me, like I said, it's self-care. It's being part of the party. I don't know. I think for each of us it's going to mean something else. I think we all need support. We all need coaches who are going to help us figure out what it is that works for us. Um, it's individualized also, but the main thing is I do believe, again, unless your doctor says no, that you can figure out a way to fit some alcohol in. Let's talk for a second about transfer addiction.
Mm-hmm.
That's a real thing. For some people, the food addiction can turn into an alcohol addiction. Those are not the people that I'm talking to and saying you can incorporate it. It's an individual situation. Transfer addiction is real.
Yeah, and I think that's very important that we cover. I know part of my journey was always the toughest because I had bariatric surgery in the middle of the pandemic. And at that point, I was in 6 figures of debt as well. So we had started financial peace. So I cut out retail therapy as well.
Mm.
Imagine this, it's like the summer that we're all still quarantined, but it's hot. So, like, we're all a little stir crazy, even with the air conditioner on. We can't go to the pool. It's the worst summer for teachers ever because it's like we have freedom, but freedom to do what? And, we had to do that. And, like, I'm not trying to like make that whole
Like,
more of, okay, I don't have food to self-soothe. I'm really not trying to go to alcohol to self-soothe, and I don't have retail therapy. I had to find like healthy coping forms.
so what did you do? What did you do?
That was when you would see me do like 52 workout montages a day, or I would record reels for Instagram. It was finding ways to keep me occupied And a lot of those early posts, like they were just me almost journal reflecting of where am I at that day in my bariatric journey. And I go back and I read some of them every now and then when I'm low, or just to kind of get inspiration of like, well, how did I feel at 7 months post op? And I'll go back and be like, wow, I was so dumb.
Yeah.
In the best way possible. Like you don't know what you don't know. And it's by getting resources and dietitians like you in front of the community, because I did just kind of start using alcohol and I didn't know how to incorporate it. And I felt shame around tracking it because it came in a different, like, it would come in as like fat was red, which probably it shouldn't be red, protein was green, and carbs were gold.
What was alcohol? I've never used a tracker. So what?
It was gray in the tracker. So it was like
Okay.
this gray area. And I get like they have to put a color to something, but like not red, yellow, green. But because I didn't see it tracked as anything, I could be like, oh, let me hit my protein goal and I'll use the rest of the calories for alcohol. And it set up a pretty nasty situation, which is why I wanted to have a lot of this conversation of like, how do you incorporate alcohol? How do you make sure you're hitting your protein goal or staying on point with it?
It's, I think, drinking by itself, multiple drinks after bariatric surgery can be a slippery slope. That's where the mindfulness comes in. Just like drinking alcohol, sipping with food can also tend to overeating because of I do believe you can physically eat more and then your guard is down. It's sometimes some of it is practice. And I told you I had that in Manhattan and learned the hard way that that doesn't sit with me on an empty stomach. Like it used, I had done that many, many times before and it didn't have the same impact. So it's
Exactly. Yeah, it's definitely so much to handle, and it's why we wanted to cover it. Before we go, though, I do want to talk a little bit about GLP-1s and what do we need to know about alcohol after if we are taking a GLP-1? Is it the same
so
bariatric surgery or different?
I've been taking a GLP-1 now for 2 years. I lost the last 40 with it. I am a believer in this tool, especially in conjunction with bariatric surgery. Alcohol hits if alcohol hits hard after bariatric surgery, alcohol with GLP-1s and bariatric surgery, it's a sonic boom. That means a few sips of something can really, I'm not sure how, if it's going to impact your blood alcohol level for driving anymore, you're going to blow a higher number. But the way I feel, I need to personally, I need to make sure that I have something in my stomach, not eating right before, but alcohol, even a sip on an empty stomach gives me a headache, as if I had 2 bottles of alcohol. It hits harder and faster, and I don't feel that well afterwards, especially on an empty stomach. So I'm drinking less. That's why I now sample the bottle of wine instead of opening and pour it. I will have more dilute drinks. It's the percentage of alcohol per sip. The impact is much harder. And same thing with my clients. It's almost like if you know how you can drink after your bariatric surgery and you go on a GLP, you kind of have to start over with learning what works for you before you go out and do it.
I think from a lot of my clients who do take GLP-1s, that's almost a good lesson for everything. That I agree the GLP-1 in conjunction with bariatric surgery or even on its own is a great tool and resource, but it does require a little bit of education. And it also means, just like it's always funny, like they make fun of the GLP-1 as like being an easy way out. It's like it's the same things that people gave us issues for bariatric surgery, they're now giving for GLP-1. So it's like, look, you've got about a 3 year window and then it'll be accepted. So just hold tight.
That's
But both are, yeah, it is. Like, I guarantee in 3 years from now, it'll be that also weird of like, yeah, it's just GLP-1. Like, we're fine. But that's a whole nother conversation. I would say, though, you have to almost reinvent the wheel as far as what does your nutrition look like on a GLP-1? What does your hydration and alcohol consumption falls into there as well?
so there's a lot of social media, there's a lot of stuff out there about eating on GLP-1s. With the bariatric surgery, it is a different game. That's why I have clients who've had bariatric surgery. I have clients who've had bariatric surgery and use GLP-1s. You have to relearn it. It's because our stomachs are smaller to begin with, and we have slower gastric emptying. I'm talking about alcohol and I'm talking about food. You have to be even more mindful to get in the right amount of nutrition. It's harder to do initially. Also, with a GLP-1, it is so intoxicating to not have hunger. or not have the food noise. The goal is not no hunger. If you're on a GLP-1 and you have no hunger, that's not okay. But even just the food noise disappearing for the first time in your adult life is intoxicating. And what you can't do is lean in and go, okay, well, I'm going to have a French fry today. I'm not hungry anymore, because ultimately your hair is going to, it's the same thing as when you don't get enough nutrition after bariatric surgery. And it bothers me so much that people are going on these meds without guidance, without support. And within our bariatric community, I think we all know that, or most of us know that it's okay to get support. That's what I'm here for. My one-on-one support. That's what you're here for with your clients. It's okay to use the tools. It's okay to get support, especially adding a GLP-1. You need it. You really need it.
Helen, I'm looking at time and I want to respect everything that we both do. You won't know this because none of the episodes with interviews have come out yet, but we're going to do a lightning round. I know, we're going to rapid fire you to end it because it's like, oh, we had such a good time. Let's put some anxiety towards the end. We use the busy method in Busy Bariatrics. Each letter stands for something, and I'm going to run through what they are. And if you could just share what comes right off your head. I know. What comes?
Oh boy. Okay. Now I'm nervous. Now
It's okay. There's no score and there's really no results on this. Oh, you'll have to listen to every episode and see how you do against the other dietitian. You can all fight in the chat. B is for building habits. What's the best habit you've built after weight loss surgery?
being mindful,
Beautiful.
not just grazing. Go.
See, you're doing awesome. Q, biggest lesson you've learned about understanding nutrition.
Understanding nutrition. For bariatrics, protein. Understand what protein is. Understand how it makes you feel. The most important nutrient.
Perfect. Favorite way to stay active?
I learned hiking. For me, that was an NSV and hiking and climbing stuff in Colorado.
That's like a triple win, and it's outdoors. I love all of that. The why is for showing up for yourself. Best way you do that.
Give yourself, really understand that self-care isn't selfish. Take the time for yourself, which is so hard for so many of us.
Always the easiest thing that I feel like, whether you're in corporate or you're in business, and I talk to my friends, everyone gets an email from someone above them that says, please make sure you are taking time for yourself. Also, here's 15 deliverables you need to get done by the end of the week. Final one, you're like, Rob, we spelled busy. What else could be there? We actually put an exclamation point at the end of busy. And the exclamation point stands for healthy forms of dopamine. What is your favorite healthy source of dopamine?
My favorite healthy source of dopamine, cooking.
Love it.
Shopping, creating.
Moving with your hands and creating, and those recipes are always some of my favorites that you cook. Okay. Helen, this has been awesome. If people have heard this and are like, I love what I'm hearing, I want to connect with you, what's the best way they can connect with you?
The best way is follow me on Instagram, bariatric.nutritionist. DM me. We'll start a conversation, get to know each other. I work one-on-one with my clients. I am there to support you in a way that nobody has, and we're a team. Let me work with you. I will help every step on this bariatric journey.
Love it so much, and I will make sure to leave a link to your Instagram in the show notes. But before we go, I'm just going to close out with our basic announcements. If you're still listening to this, thank you so much. If you want more from our content, please go ahead and hit subscribe on our YouTube playlist page and also on our podcast on Spotify or Apple. If you like this episode, the best way you can help support the show is by leaving a 5-star rating and review. Every week, we will be giving away one free product from our sponsors and announcing the winner on our Friday email list, so be sure to subscribe there as well. If you feel this episode can help someone, screenshot it, drop it into your stories with a link to the episode to help spread the love, and as always, keep getting busy. Thanks again, Helen.
Thank you for having me.
Bye, everyone.